I am Tayton Barton. I live in a small town in Oklahoma. I want to share my story today about my sexual assault and being a survivor and how that affected me not only physically but mentally as well. I was 7 years old when I started realizing that not necessarily that I was transgender, but that I had a sense of an incongruence with not only with the way that I was born, but just the way that I didn't feel safe or comfortable within my own skin. It wasn't until around 10 years of age that I started to have that ability or that access to research, internet, other people, to be able to find through my own self-research that I was transgender. When I was 7 years old and I started having these incongruent feelings, it's almost like you're detached. Your brain is just not connecting with your body. It's like you're lost. You don't know where you're at. When I was younger, I was forced into a lot of social pressures. When you are a young boy, there are certain things that people think that you're supposed to do, or you're supposed to like these toys, or you're supposed to like, blue or stuff like that. And when I was 16 years old, I actually came out as a gay man first, because I think that sexual preference was a little bit more accepted back then. It was a little bit more okay to be gay. And so when I did come out, my parents didn't take it as well. I decided I was going to come out the day or the morning that my mom was having surgery. My pastor was there and my father was there. And I told my mom first, I texted her. But my pastor was actually like a really up and coming pastor. He was like super futuristic and he was very accepting, and he actually told my parents that it was okay. That same day when I was picked up, I love my father to death. We are working on a relationship, but he did tell me that I was going to hell. He was raised in an army household, so he was very straightforward, strict. And so when he did tell me I was going to hell, it didn't necessarily have the biggest effect on me, but I knew that it would have effect on our relationship. And so that was really hard for me first. But over, I think, like a span of, 3 to 4 years, it kind of died down. And our relationships were hard at first, but they got better. When I was living in Austin, Texas, and I started going to the Kind Clinic, I knew that I had some incongruent feelings. I knew I was transgender, but I didn't know how to work through that. And so with the social pressure that being transgender even today is still not always the most accepted, I had to work through that. I was too afraid to tell people. So I started posting on Instagram, and I posted a picture of me in some women's clothes. I was just wearing a wig and a dress and makeup done, and I was outed. And that was kind of a hard aspect because this person sent the screenshot to my mom, and at that moment I just felt like I could be honest. My mom and my relationship was really good and is still really good. And so after I did come out, I made an appointment to the Kind Clinic, and I had the world's best therapist I think I've ever had. It was a lot of therapy, a lot of self-work, a lot of affirmation. When I received my gender dysphoria diagnosis, it kind of put like a stamp in my mind that, I am a woman. The feelings that I've been having are valid. I am valid. My gender identity is valid. When I received my gender dysphoria diagnosis, it was almost like, my shoulders can come down, my body can relax. I just felt the most validated I had ever felt. After receiving my gender dysphoria diagnosis, from that day forward, it really opened my mind to not allowing other people to tell me who they think I am. When coming out, most of my family was accepting. Many of them I did have to work with to, explain myself a little bit more. When I did come out, a lot of my family didn't necessarily disown me, but they definitely had a few words behind my back. And I'm not one of those people to let that go. One of my family members really kind of had a big impact on the way that I learned to speak to people, because we had a 6-hour conversation just about life and living and gender identities. And so I think that really kind of pumped me up for my future, and that really did open my eyes that like people really don't know what transgender is. They've never necessarily seen it, but they just don't know. As a transgender woman, I myself identify as a straight woman. And so through that, obviously I'm attracted to men, and into my transition, I wanted to, explore my womanhood and who I am. And I decided one day after getting off work that I would download an app. Chose to talk to someone random. I was feeling, a sense of loneliness, but also like a sense of power, because I wanted to, after exploring my womanhood and into that, I wanted to have intercourse. I think that is a natural part of being a human. Being a baby trans is what we call it. When you're a new out trans woman, we call them a baby trans. I got off work. I decided I was going to message a random man. He didn't have a car ride. I decided I was going to pick him up from his friend's house and then take him to what I thought was his apartment. And I was just so naive to the real world. I picked him up from his friend's apartment, and then I went to what I thought was his apartment. Right away when I walked in the door, I just remember there being loads of trash. It was very smelly. There was clothes everywhere. There was dog poop everywhere. My first thought was like, I need to get out of here. But I am also like a very like I don't know how to tell people when I'm not comfortable, and I decided to stay. And I went into his bedroom, and the mattress was lying on the floor. I told him I needed to go to the bathroom, and I went to the bathroom, and I was trying to think of a million ways of like how I could get out of this. I didn't know what to do. I just felt so uncomfortable. And so I decided to go back out there, and I told him that I have a business meeting and that I had to go, but he did not take that as a no. After telling him, no, I don't want to do this, he started taking off my clothes. I kind of just looked away from him. I could feel him like kissing on my body, touching me where I didn't want to be touched. Then I thought to myself, like, maybe I should like go to the bathroom and then play it off again. And I told him, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, and he let me. So then I'm in the bathroom. I call my mom, and I'm like, hey, like this guy is like touching me. I don't want to be touched. I'm trying to get out of here. And she asked me what had I told him. And I said, I have a business meeting and I need to get out of here. But like when I tried to leave, he pulled my clothes off. And she said, do you want me to call the police? Again, me being a naive person, I was like, no, I can handle this. I can do it myself. After I got off the phone with her, I went to his bedroom and I went back over to my clothes and said, hey, I really do need to go. I have a business meeting. At that point, it's kind of when he started to get a little more aggressive. Kind of was just like, no. And then like pulled me on the bed. And then that's kind of when he inserted himself into me. I actually never told anyone that I didn't want him to do that. There is a police report for the assault that I received, but I will like talk about that. But after he inserted himself, your mind kind of starts to go blank and you kind of just start to phase out. The pain is intensified, the shaking is intensified, sweating, you feel very nauseous. He was a 2-pump chump, but he got it over with. That wasn't the last of it. After he was done, I went back into the bathroom and I like kind of ran into the bathroom, and I was sitting on the toilet and I didn't grab my clothes or anything. I was just sitting on the toilet because I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do. I heard another man and another woman walk into the apartment, and I had my phone. I took my phone with me, but I didn't have my clothes, and my purse was on their counter. And I was texting my mom like, hey, like I was with this guy. Someone just walked in. I don't know who it is. And she's like, do you want me to call the police? And I was like, I don't know yet. I think we always have a lot of what ifs. And I think I should have just called the police like way before that. But the man ended up being the father of his girlfriend. The father and the guy that assaulted me came in, and both of them, I don't think they knew what was going on because the bedroom door was shut. I think they caught on after they saw my purse because I was sitting on the toilet. I saw a notification from Cash App that someone had tried to use my card to pay their phone bill. And at first I was like, oh, maybe like someone stole my card. But then I had another transaction from another card fail. That's when I kind of knew that they were not good people, because who would do that? The wife, tries to go into the bedroom and the door is locked, and she starts screaming like, why is the bedroom locked? Who's here? What's going on? And she goes over to the bathroom door, and I'm in there, and the door is locked. And I start like crying very softly because I didn't want to be heard. She starts like yelling at him after he gave me my clothes. The wife and him are yelling, and the dad comes into the bathroom. The father of the wife comes over to me and grabs the back of my hair. He asked me, "Are you a woman or are you a trans woman?" In that moment of time, like, I felt like I had to lie because I didn't know in that certain moment, like, if he was going to do something because I was trans. He was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "I'm a trans woman." But I said it so softly, I don't even know if he heard me. And then he pulls out a knife. He slit my throat, not like deep down, but, you know, slid it across my skin, created a cut. He asked me, "Are you gonna suck my dick if I pull it out?" And I said, "Will you let me go if I do?" And he repeated it again, and I was like, "I will if you let me go." And he was like, "I don't know." His girlfriend comes in, and I just kept saying to her, I didn't know. And I knew she was like in such like aggravation, and, you know, I'm sure she's experienced trauma herself, and she probably just wasn't there herself. And I think the anger just took over, and I knew she was gonna hit me, so I just covered my face and let her hit me, because 3 against 1, I don't know what to do. I just covered my face. I had bruises all over my face, cuts on my neck, bruises on my arms. After she left, the father kept screaming, "Grab a pillowcase." And for many people who don't know what that means they're going to cover your head and unalive you. He kept saying that, and I was like, "Will you please let me call my mom before you?" He told me no, that he wouldn't let me, and at that moment, I just faded out so hard, thinking that I would never get to speak to her again. It was just really hard for me to fathom that. Going out, my mom not getting a last word, me not getting a last word. After he told me no, he grabbed me by like the back of my head and then also on my neck and just started squeezing my neck. And then I could hear the wife and the husband fighting in the background, and he's just squeezing my neck for maybe 20-ish seconds. It was almost to the point where I was about to pass out, but thankfully I didn't. But then the wife goes, "I want this gone, get her out, get her out." At that point, I was almost thankful in a way that she kind of like came to her senses and was like, "Let her go." And I was just like, my adrenaline is rushing, like I'm almost like mentally faded out. And the wife comes in the bathroom, grabs me by the hair, throws me out of the apartment, and like I kind of ran a little bit, and then enough to where I could run if I needed to again. And I turned around and I asked her, "Can I at least have my keys to go? Can I like please have my keys?" And she only threw me my keys. That was all she gave me back. She did not give me my cards, ID, my 2 pairs of AirPods. Not that that matters. My life is more important, but you know. And so the only thing I had left was my keys, and I ran as fast as I could to my car. Ended up going like 120 miles an hour down the road, called the police. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of cops, but the men who came to me were both wearing pride flags. And it was kind of like a sign. You know, bad things happen, bad people do bad things, but someone is out there watching. Because both of the cops were straight, cis, hetero men, and they both had pride flags on. And that's when I knew I was gonna be safe. After I had the cops come to me, they checked on me, did my vitals, everything. They asked me if I wanted to proceed with a case, and I said I do. I think at that direct moment, I was more angry than I was anything else. But at that moment, I did want to continue with a lawsuit. Now, in the state of Texas, things are very different. Criminal cases are more directed towards the state before it becomes personal. So you would have your criminal case first, and then after they are either guilty or non-guilty, you would then proceed on with a civil lawsuit. To this day, the man still sits in prison waiting trial. I don't think that's fair that he sits there with unanswered but I also think that it's fair that he's there. He's committed other crimes in other counties. I don't think it's safe for him to be on the street in this moment without therapy and maybe some classes on controlling your anger. But he does sit in jail, and that makes me happy. A lot of people know the judicial system will give you the runaround and take their time, and I hope this goes somewhere, because maybe the Texas judicial system will think about their choices. The first couple months after my sexual assault was probably one of the hardest times of my life. I was scared to go in public. I was scared to be in my apartment alone. I was scared to do anything alone. I didn't want to go to the grocery store. I didn't want to go anywhere. Laying in bed at night, if hearing any little noise would startle me. I remember the first couple nights after my sexual assault, I stayed with my sister because I was so in fear of my life. I was terrified. I couldn't mentally capacitate that people could actually do that. You know, you see it in movies, you see it online, you see it blasted everywhere, but you never, until it happens to you, you don't think it would happen to you. People are just like, oh, it'll never happen to me. And the statistics don't look good for women. They're not any better for trans women. Being a trans woman, my statistics are actually higher. Trans women have a very high rate of being sexually assaulted, being a part of something including domestic violence, hate crimes. The violence towards trans women is very high. But again, being a woman in today's society, we still have to fight for our rights. We still have to fight to just survive. I think that most of society does not see that women and many minorities have to take certain precautions. Just going to the grocery store, just going to a gas station, just literally the moment you leave your apartment, you almost have this plan in your head of like how you're gonna walk each step just to make sure you're safe. Dating is just a whole nother thing when you even think about getting to dating again. You know, with my sexual assault, PTSD, and the trauma that comes with that, you know, in the sickest way, shape, or form, it's a blessing and it's a curse, because obviously I would never want to experience that again. I would never want to have that happen to somebody else. But also through that, I learned that, you know, the world isn't always, you know, yellow. It is sometimes black, and we have to, you know, just be more cautious of our surroundings, especially in the nicest way possible. Women, we have to be there for each other, and we need to be more open to our surroundings and take care of each other, because it could happen to any of us. After moving to Oklahoma, I was living in a place called Transition House, and they helped me work through my homelessness traumas and being very open about my feelings and working through them. And I just one day had this thought, you know, I used to stream Fortnite, like why can't I explore other things like education, activism, human rights? And I took to it. I went back to TikTok. I started educating people on the living situations of minorities. Being a trans woman, I take huge part in educating for the trans community. I am not the trans community, but I do take part in the trans community, and I speak with my experience and my thoughts, education on how we can be more proactive on getting trans rights passed. There are a lot of trans bills throughout America, anti-trans bills that want to take our rights away. And I think the best way to educate is through TikTok, an app with over 1 billion users. I say a lot. When I go to edit my own videos, I have to cut out the Like, I'll put the captions on, and then I will like mark where the is, and I'll cut the out. On TikTok, in the past couple months, my platform has definitely increased, and I love building my community. I love building a community where people feel safe, where they feel like they're allowed to have opinions, where they're allowed to be confused. They're allowed to not know what to ask trans people. They're allowed to be uncertain of the future. Like, I want people who are curious, who are confused, who don't know where to go because they want to hear it firsthand. And with my TikTok platform, I've had over 7 million views in the past 20 days. And with that access, I'm able to help people learn more about trans people and where we come from, who we are. And if I could let everyone know I want people to know that trans people are just as normal as anyone else. Our identities might have a little twist, but we are still just like you. We're just like your mother. We're just like your fathers, cousins, brothers, anyone. We're just like you. And I want people to know that trans people we just want to exist. We just want to have the right to live without fear of our lives being ended, and not by natural causes, but by unfortunate events. And I love sharing my story.